Hello and welcome to Iltv's Israel Daily. I'm Aaron Porras, and coming up in today's newscast, Prime Minister Netanyahu calls out Iran for its advancing missile program. A couple of former educators are charged with the negligent homicide of 10 of their students, and an Israeli fashion mogul earns top marks at the Lagerfeld design competition. Now, as the regional balance of powers continues to shift in the Middle East, Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu is warning again that Iran is ramping up its malign activities in the region. In fact, speaking at a press conference with United States Treasury Secretary Steven Mnuchin on Monday, Netanyahu says that Iran is developing and deploying guided weapons that can strike anywhere in the Middle East with a circumference of just 5 to 10 meters. And that includes, of course, strikes against Israel from positions in Yemen.
They're developing this in Iran. They want to place them in Iraq and in Syria, and to convert Lebanon's arsenal of 130,000 statistical rockets to precision-guided munitions. They seek also to develop that, and have already begun to put that in Yemen, with the goal of reaching Israel from there too.
Well, Netanyahu first thanked Secretary Mnuchin for the United States' efforts thus far, including military assistance to Israel and sanctions and anti-money laundering programs against Iran. But he also then encouraged the American diplomat to do a lot more to combat the growing Iranian presence, which Netanyahu calls the single greatest threat to peace, stability, and security. As for our own responsibility in the region, however, Netanyahu went on to call on Israel and the Jewish people to stay strong in the face of danger.
We must be strong. And to be strong, we have to be united as a people, united in spirit, united in our quest to secure the future of the Jewish state and the Jewish people. But to be strong, you have to be strong militarily. And to be strong militarily, we have to shift now money from the civilian areas to the military areas.
In other news, it's been 25 years now since Israel and Jordan signed their Treaty of Peace in the Arava Valley. But after a quarter century of seemingly warming ties, the relationship between the two neighboring nations seems colder than ever. In fact, neither Israel nor the Hashemite Kingdom even celebrated the occasion this year, a symbol of the souring between Jerusalem and Amman. Well, joining us to discuss is Dr. Mordechai Kedar, Middle East expert from the Begin Sadat Center and chairman of the Professors for a Strong Israel. Dr. Kedar, as always, thank you so much for coming in.
My pleasure.
All right, so what happened to get us to this point between Israel and Jordan?
Well, nothing really happened, because this peace from the beginning, from 1994, was only a peace between the governments. I mean, Israeli government and the Hashemite family in Jordan, which are like 70 people, no more, and who control the whole country. The vast majority of the people, the Palestinians in Jordan, never agreed to this peace. They never felt that they are part of this, to a degree that even the worker unions, journalists, doctors, never cooperate in anything with Israel, as if there is a state of war between Israel and Jordan. To a degree that one time, 2 doctors from dentists came to Israel to purchase some equipment for the torture dungeon, which they dig in our teeth. They were expelled from the union because they came to Israel to buy some equipment in Jerusalem.
So, all right, we'll quickly, before we move on to a second topic that I want to bring up, is there anything that can be done, or is there any way that this might continue to devolve?
Nothing can be done, and nothing should be done, because peace in the Middle East means that people leave you alone. No hugs in this region, and no kisses. And this is what peace in the Middle East means: non-belligerence plus some economy. This is all we can expect. Unfortunately, people in the West do not get it. That peace in the Middle East is something totally different from what it is in the West.
All right, well, moving now to our neighbor in the north, to Lebanon. The Lebanese Prime Minister Hariri has just announced that he is resigning from his position. This, of course, comes after about 2 weeks of protests, of massive nationwide protests. What does this mean for the region? What does this mean for Israel? What does this mean for Hezbollah?
Well, it is good. It is good. Why? Lebanon, for years already, was only a mask over the face of Hezbollah, or I would say a latex glove on the hand of Hezbollah. Hezbollah was the bones and the muscles. the government, the parliament, the president, all of them are actors or marionettes operated by Hezbollah.
But who's to say that Hariri's replacement won't be similar or the same? Or,
No. Now everybody understands that Hezbollah is actually the state. It's a Hezbollah state. It's Hezbollah land. It's not anymore Lebanon. And the sooner it happens, the sooner the world understands this country is actually a long tentacle of the Iranian octopus. Nothing more. And everybody else there are marionettes. Now maybe the street doesn't want to be marionettes. And this is actually what the demonstrations are. It's against the government, means against the mask over the face of Hezbollah. And I don't know, maybe Hezbollah will get angry that the whole project of capturing Lebanon while making face as if it is an independent state will shatter to pieces, and they will run to the streets, the Hezbollah, in order to put law and order, put law and order, and kick all the others away.
All right, well, now we've discussed a little bit in Jordan how, the Hashemite kingdom is, the governments between the Hashemite kingdom and Israel kind of came to a peace, but the people were very much against it. Is that a situation that we might see in Lebanon going forward after Hariri's ousting, after maybe Hezbollah loses some power, if they lose some power?
Hezbollah will not lose power. In order to lose power for Hezbollah, you have to take his weapons, and nobody will take even a pistol.
Well, so what changes? Because obviously the protests would then need to continue. That Hariri's resignation wouldn't be enough.
What will be changed is that Lebanon will not anymore be a mask over the face of Hezbollah. Now everybody will understand that the only power is this man, Hassan Nasrallah.
Yeah.
And this is the reality, and the sooner the world understands it, the better it is.
And so, again, though, all right, well, I guess we'll have to see how this goes, how this plays out. We'll see who replaces Hariri.
Israel has to be very wary of the situation, because Hezbollah might try to drag Israel into the equation by harassing Israel, missiles, something like this, in order to show everybody, hey, unite under our aegis only because the Zionists are coming to kill us all. This they might do, and Israel has to be very careful not to be dragged into the Lebanese swamp while threatening Hezbollah that if you try to do anything with us, we will going to get you back to the Stone Age, as Israel did already in the past.
All right, Dr. Kedar, thank you so much for coming in.
Pleasure.
All right, moving on. Weather-related incidents are always a concern, especially as several deaths and injuries have been reported in just the past week. But before we can deal with the issues of today, we have to first deal with the issues of the past. And in particular, today we're dealing with the tragedy of April 2018. Now, it's raining again in the Holy Land, and while Israelis overall are grateful for the weather and the respite from the summer heat, the storms bring with them a deadly double edge that should never be taken lightly. That's why a Beersheva district court is now charging 2 former employees of a pre-military academy with 10 counts each of negligent homicide, charges that can each invoke up to 12 years in prison. Also, prosecutors are charging the former administrators at the school with causing grievous bodily harm, all for their parts in organizing a desert hike last year that tragically resulted in the deaths of 10 teenagers. According to the indictments, the Bnei Zion group recklessly took 25 students on a hike near the Dead Sea without taking proper precautions and in spite of severe weather warnings. They even allegedly changed the path to a more dangerous route while assuring participants that there was nothing to worry about. But once the flooding swept in, 9 girls and 1 boy were killed. Shani Shamir, Ela Or, Mayan Barhum, Yael Sadan, Tzur Alfi, Agam Levi, Romi Cohen, Gali Balali, Adi Ra'anan, and Ilan Bar Shalom. Then meanwhile, just this week, yet another young man was killed while hiking near the Dead Sea. The 21-year-old Jerusalem native Yerachmiel Yeshayahu fell from a cliffside in the Judean desert, and his body was located after several hours of searching, while 3 other hikers in his party were also lightly injured. Now, for months now, as elections and coalition-forming negotiations stall, economists in Israel have been warning that the continuing absence of a government will have disastrous effects. Well, a new Globes report now shows that prediction is way more accurate than previously considered, as billions of shekels in revenue from the sale of government companies sit in limbo. And here now to tell us all about it is the CEO of BitTax and the former Deputy Director of the Israel Tax Authority, Gidi Bar-Zakai. Gidi, thank you so much for coming in and joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
All right, so tell us a little bit about what's going on and how bad is it?
Well, it doesn't look good. I mean, basically, to have another elections, it was very expensive and took a lot of time and efforts. And I'm not talking about only direct costs, also indirect cost of having the whole not working, nobody's working and not producing everything and all of that. Now, let's talk about the budget. In the absence of a budget, you need to use the budget that you had for 2019. Let's assume the budget for 2019 was great and it was allocated properly. It's not necessarily the right thing to use in 2020. So if you don't have a government and you don't approve the budget, you get to split the budget into 12 pieces. And then you need to use the budget for 2019 in 2020. Each month you take the 12
Which doesn't
pieces.
account for inflation or a lot of other issues then.
Also, and it's not reassuring that we don't know that the funds are allocated in the right places because needs are changing. So you get to use money. Some departments that don't need the money get it. And once you get the budget, you have to use it. This is rule number one. I mean, if you don't use the budget, something is wrong with you. So you might get more money than you need to. And on the other hand, if you need something, you're not going to get it.
Yeah. So how does this affect the Israeli economy overall and the individual layperson?
This is where the real pain is. So let's talk about the economy soon. But
Sure.
but first, the individuals. So there are special programs which are like allocated immediately, more important than maybe the usual stuff, and you cannot perform. So you have a basic performance, you have a basic program for cyber in the army, they cannot implement. You have a shortcut in waiting time in hospitals, you cannot use this. You want to treat the special education, it's not there. The basket for medics, also out of the game.
So it's really not just like businesses that are being sold that, are kind of saying, okay, we have to wait.
This is also a very strong angle, you're so right, because there is the income issue. So in order to derive the income, you need to have some legislation done. You need to have some acts. So we have some exit that is probably going to be postponed too long, and the money is in limbo, as you said. And there's also dividends that need to be taken care of, and you need to have some operating government for that. So on one hand, we don't have the income that we should have, and this is costing a lot of time and money. On the other hand, you cannot implement, you cannot plan anything. You're stuck. So by virtue of using the old budget, this is very bad.
Well, okay, so now my final question, because unfortunately we're running out of time. Can Israel afford, literally, can we afford a third election?
Can we afford the second one? I'm not sure about this as well. Well, we're still here, right? Well, I think it will be a catastrophe. I mean, we cannot afford to do that. Wow. We will probably survive this as well, but if we are smart and we know what we do, so we should do everything we can, and I advise the politicians to look a bit over the corner because this is catastrophic and it costs us a lot of money and it doesn't look good. So please, let's hope it was a joke what you said about the third elections.
Oh, man. All right.
Not funny one.
All right. Gidi Bar-Zakai, thank you so much. It was an absolute pleasure to have you here. Thank you.
My pleasure. Thank you.
All right. It's not every day that a woman becomes prime minister, let alone a Jewish woman in Belgium. But Iltv's Shanna Fold is here now with us to tell us a little bit about the politician who is now causing such a huge ruckus. Shanna, take it away.
This is very exciting news for women all over the world. Anytime a woman gets into a leadership position, I am very excited about it. So let's talk about PM Sophie Wilmès. She was appointed by King Felipe of Belgium, which is a huge honor. And she is a centrist. They consider her central left. Now, she is something called operating in a caretaker government. Now, what that means is that she is leading a government that doesn't have their coalition together, sort of like what's happening here in Israel. They haven't been able to figure out their coalition since December of 2018.
Oh, wow.
So, but yet the country is still quite peaceful. Now,
it seems to still be there and running.
Yes, it's still running. It's quite interesting. Now, in the Jewish front, her mother is actually lost a lot of relatives during the Holocaust. Wow. So I think that this sort of brings a really interesting twist to her. She is leading a country that historically is known for anti-Semitism, and she's a Jew. It's an incredible breakthrough.
Well, did she really campaign on the fact that she had any Jewish roots, though?
Thank you for asking that. Now, when you try to find information about her, she really doesn't talk too much about being Jewish. I read that she had visited some Holocaust commemorations and been a bit of a supporter, but she didn't really bring this to the forefront of her campaign.
She didn't hide it either, though, I'm assuming.
She neither hid it nor...
It just wasn't something that was important
prominent
enough, I guess, to bring up.
It wasn't super prominent. Now, I respect that, being that she needed to talk about the issues, and there were quite a few. Now, this led me to think about the fact that, first of all, Europe is not done with anti-Semitism. There's still a lot of anti-Semitism that's going on, so she could be potentially a changing factor here. And there were quite a few other Jewish women that have had these same leadership positions in Europe. We have Golda Meir. In 1969, she was the PM of Israel, the first and only. She came from the U.S., moved here before Israel was Israel. It was Palestine.
Yeah, she even famously showed off her Palestinian passport, I remember, in I think it was 60 Minutes.
Trailblazer. We also have Indira Gandhi, who before this, in 1966, was the PM of India. She was assassinated. And third person I would like to speak about is Ruth Dreyfus, the president of Switzerland. She was president in 1999. And these are some prominent women.
That's incredible. But bringing it back to Sophie, though, I just want to say, I understand there was some unusual coverage of her victory.
So this is actually what kind of brought us to her to begin with, was the headlines on her. A lot of the articles started off in the lead saying mother of 4. Okay.
Rather than kind of maybe listing some accomplishments or some career highlights or anything.
Now, while I don't want to say that being a mother of 4 is not an achievement and accomplishment, which it absolutely certainly is, it's just that men in leadership positions are usually known for their accomplishments, and people are excited to see what they're going to do.
They're never discussed in that same way.
They're not. You never say Netanyahu, father of 2.
No, but we're going to move on now, Shanna. In other news, it turns out that at least some of those seemingly inane airport guidelines are truly there for good reason, as a fire just broke out Sunday night inside the cargo hold of an El Al flight bound for Paris. Apparently, a lithium-ion battery in a wheelchair was not removed as is required, and this sparked a fire in the aircraft's baggage stow. Thankfully, though, the flight was still on the ground when it happened, and so no one was hurt, and the flight was just canceled. Passengers were also taken to a hotel for the night ahead of their rescheduled flight, while El Al apologized for the inconvenience. Shanna, can you believe this? Are you planning any flights anytime soon?
I would like to visit family in late December, and I will tell you one thing. I wasn't worried about lithium batteries.
Yeah, well, it wasn't something that really piqued any interest in me or raised any hair until now. But then, I'm reading this report, and it turns out that this is actually like a real issue.
You did some research on this, right?
I did some research. I believe it was Skybrary, which had lots of citations, lots of links. And they talked about how on an average 150-person passenger flight, you could have up to 500 lithium-ion batteries on the plane, and one in something like 10 million of them are defective to begin with. So it's pretty crazy.
Wow.
But yeah, Shanna, thank you for coming in. All right, so what would you do if you were on death row for crimes you didn't commit? Well, Netflix is about to tackle this topic with the release of its latest show about a Nazi death camp worker who was accused of being one of the worst, most merciless offenders of the Holocaust.
John Demjanjuk, he was a family man.
He was living the American dream. He was a good American citizen. Up until the government came along and said he was Ivan the Terrible.
Charges were filed today against John Demjanjuk. The 66-year-old Ukrainian native is accused of being a Nazi death camp guard named Ivan the Terrible.
The crimes that he was accused of were horrid.
The Israeli government is seeking his extradition as a war criminal.
Ivan the Terrible is one of the most notorious Nazi guards to ever have lived. Known for having tortured Jews on their walk to the gas chambers at the Treblinka death camp, the public was overjoyed when they thought authorities had caught the man responsible some 40 years later. But the problem is that John Demjanjuk, the Ukrainian expat living in the U.S., who was accused of these crimes, insisted he was innocent. And evidence suggests that he was right. You see, Ivan is the Ukrainian translation for John, and even though survivors from the camp testified that he was the one they wanted, a lack of compelling evidence saved him from the death sentence. Well, so the Netflix docuseries called The Devil Next Door will be released on November 4th, highlighting Demjanjuk's case and getting into the nitty-gritty of what went down after he was extradited to Israel in 1986 to stand for a trial that was supposed to end in death by hanging. And finally, the show is meant to be suspenseful and factual, but it's also reminding German prosecutors that time is running out to nab Nazis who are still living under the radar.
Demjanjuk could have been a monster or a victim of wrong identity. My deepest fear is that I think he can be anybody.
Well, you loved him as the lovable giant Hodor on the hit HBO series Game of Thrones, but not everyone knows that British actor Christian Nairn is also world famous for his successful career as a progressive house DJ. Well, lucky for us, DJ Nairn just graced the Tel Aviv music scene last week, and Iltv's Nittany Manson has the details. Nittany.
Hi, Aaron. Yeah, that's right. He was here. Hodor was in Tel Aviv.
Hodor was here.
So exciting. Now, it wasn't his first time here, but this time he did open for DJ Tiesto, who is very well known. And if you don't know who he is, then I don't even know who you are.
I'm not as cool as maybe everybody thinks, so I don't know all these DJs.
It's really exciting for Israelis because Hodor was here. Of course, everyone is calling him DJ Hodor.
Right, but that can't be his name unless he changed it.
I don't think that is his official DJ name.
Yeah, he's been a DJ longer than he's been
much longer.
Hodor.
He's actually been DJing. He's the house DJ at a Belfast club.
Wow.
So he's very well known.
When I saw him, I know he's a very talented musician in general too, because I remember seeing a video a while back of him playing guitar with Megadeth.
So he does know more than just one word, because on Game of Thrones he only had one line over and over again. So yeah, but it's very exciting for Israelis that he was here. He does progressive house music, which is kind of similar to dubstep for those of you who don't know.
Sure.
And it was just fun. I mean, look at these videos. It looks like everyone is having such a great time.
A great time. Yeah. Well, I see Christian Nairn on the big screen behind him.
No, it's DJ Hodor.
It doesn't seem like he would agree.
I don't know. I think he should change his name officially if he hasn't.
I think we can help him. We can help him by calling him DJ Hodor Nairn.
If you want to change his name to DJ Hodor,
DJ Hodor Nairn.
Call him out on Twitter, Instagram. I don't know.
All right, we will do. But let's move on because we have another amazing story. You'd better shine your shoes, by the way, and tuck in your shirt for this one, because Israeli fashion designer Het Mainer is taking the #2 spot at the Karl Lagerfeld prize competition. This is actually the first time an Israeli has even entered the competition, though, which hosted 1,700 designers from over 100 countries. And Mainer took the second place prize on his first attempt, winning 150,000 euros, or about $165,000, plus support from the industry giants who are now working to help him expand his brand. This is just incredible. I don't even know.
It's really big news for Israel and for the fashion world here in Israel. But I have to say, I know there's going to be a big fight in the control room when I come out, but I don't see it.
You don't get it?
I don't get it. I just don't understand.
Get it.
I guess I don't understand fashion. But I mean, good on him. I'm so proud of him. I'm sure all of Israel is very excited. But I mean, it's a big white outfit. Look at that.
I mean, I'm reminded of early Israeli settlers who came to plow the land.
It's kibbutz chic.
It's kibbutz and or farm chic.
Well, I saw something about, he said it was inspired by army attire, something like that, early Israel, yeah. So, I mean, I guess he is drawing his inspiration from
his roots, from what he knows, yeah. Well, but I think one of the cooler parts, though, again, is not necessarily that he earned second place, which is an amazing success story in and of itself, but also that he's now going to be really supported by some of the biggest names in world fashion. Louis Vuitton, Dior, and many others, which I think is just really incredible.
That's great for the Israeli scene.
Anna Wintour, it's just so many people are coming to his aid now thanks to this incredible competition.
And other people will take over his haircut, I'm hoping, because I liked it. And moving on, I'm going to take your job here.
You know what? Please, do the weather. Take us to the weather, Nittany. Let's do it.
In other news, the weather. Let's take a look at the weather forecast. Tonight should be partly cloudy with a chance of rain and lows at around 60 or 16 degrees Celsius. Then tomorrow you can expect partly cloudy skies and highs of around 78 or 26 degrees Celsius in all but Jerusalem and Eilat, where the highs will be 70 and 87 or 21 and 31 degrees Celsius respectively.
That was good.
It was great.
That was great. All right, that's it for today's news. Today's exchange rate is 3.54 shekels to the American dollar. For more news from ILTV, please like ILTV on Facebook and follow us on Instagram. I'm Aaron Porras here with Nittany Manson, and thank you so much for watching. We'll see you next time.